And everybody please be upstanding and make a toast to Ollie and Lauren Courtlang. And I'd like to make everybody raise their glass to Lauren and Ollie, from this day forward known as Lolly. Tell Ollie. And it's with great pleasure I introduce Ollie's stepfather, my twin, Ian Douglas.
I'm Oliver's stepfather. I've had the privilege of being Oliver's stepfather. This is the fun part of the wedding, where we get to tell stories about the groom and the bride. Lauren, first of all, you're a very welcome addition to our family. I got to know you over a period of time, and as well as being beautiful and a good cook, and she is a good cook. She cooks the most beautiful cheesecake, you wouldn't believe it. You also have a strong will, which is going to be necessary if you're going to handle Oliver. Oliver's mother would have loved you. When I first met Oliver's mother, she was partially deaf. I also found out she had another handicap. 50 centimeters tall with blonde hair, blue eyes, and 3 years old. He had a voice like a sergeant major because of his mother's deafness. He was like that little guy on television that advertises batteries, you know, the Energizer. He just never stopped until he went to bed, and that was at dusk. He got up again at dawn. And Zinni and I had to build our bed 1.5 meters off the floor in order to get some sleep in the morning. Oliver learned how to make breakfast very early. The first handicap I could cope with, as I used to be a trained teacher of the deaf. The second handicap, however, was going to be a challenge. How to raise him without breaking his spirit. As you can imagine, we had our moments, good and bad. He still hasn't beaten me at arm wrestling. And fortunately, he has grown into a kind, courteous, enthusiastic, and huge adult. And I must have fed him too much, I think. But anyway, I love him as one of my sons. He has all of his mother's best qualities, especially her enthusiasm for life. So Lauren, you've got yourself a handful, but take it from me, life will never be boring. I hope you have many years together. When Oliver was very young, and I could still pick him up, I used to put him outside the back door when he couldn't be reasoned with. I'd lock the door, and in his frustration, the only worst thing he could say to me was, "Well, you're not my real father anyway." On that note, I would like to introduce his real father, Peter Courtlang.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ian. Yeah. Right. Oh. Well, Tara, Lavinia and Venetia and I are delighted to be here today to join family and friends in celebrating the marriage of Ollie and Lauren. Ollie has finally decided it is time to settle down after an adventurous youth. Where do we start? It's going to be a long speech. It could be a book. Ollie, this is your life. I can't read that, sorry. That's too rude. Right. Ollie Ollie has, over the years, received numerous trophies and prizes, but many will not know that these started at quite an early age. That at only 6 months of age, he was runner-up in the Johnson & Johnson Best Looking Baby competition in There was a more beautiful one. I don't know how. He had to go to London to receive masses of milk powder, baby food, and the like. He was delighted with his prize and always asked for more. Right, Ollie did well at collegiate college and was head of house, and in the rowing 8 and the rugby first 15, as you probably all know. Over the years, Ollie has spent holidays with us, and it was when he was 19 that he came over and worked at Friars Prep School as a general assistant. Ollie's brother Piers was a pupil at the school at the same time. His job description included sports supervision and ensuring the boys went to bed. However, he inevitably kept them awake, entertaining them with various stories, because you know Ollie. Ollie spent the year teasing Miss Carol Allen, as she was the matron, and we all felt really sorry for her. For after acquiring a pair of handcuffs, he used to handcuff her to the stair banister, and the poor girl had to pretend that things were just fine when the headmaster came to talk to her, as she was meant to be supervising the boys at bedtime. You remember? Yeah. We also have some photographic evidence of Carol handcuffed to a radiator with all the boys having to walk past her going to assembly. I think she told them she was attending to an air heating system. I know that New Zealand is famous for extreme sports, but Ollie and his friends had this extraordinary habit of running up and down the bonnet of a car, over the roof, and down the boot. It didn't matter whose car it was. I think you did regularly. In traffic jams, they used to hop over everyone else's car, much to the amazement. They just couldn't believe it. When Ollie was working in London, he used to tell us he was off to the church on Sundays. We thought he had last seen the divine light. Unfortunately, this was not to be. We discovered that it was a warehouse where all the New Zealanders and Australians gathered to definitely have more than one pint. You remember it well. Matt, who was also in London together with Ollie and some friends, would go anywhere for a drink. They once even drove to Edinburgh on New Year's Eve to celebrate and drove back the next day. 800 miles in total, more than 1,000 kilometres. We enjoyed having Ollie live nearby, and that we were able to meet all Matt and many of his friends. One Christmas, I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say. One Christmas, when Ollie and Matt were with us, Tara and I went out for dinner on Boxing Day, and I asked Ollie to put the children to bed at a reasonable hour. The boys, being Matt and Ollie, decided to watch Poltergeist on the TV, and they devised a plan. We had been given a large jar of sweets. They said to the children, "Let's see how quickly you can put your pyjamas on." And up they went in record time to the reward of sweets. Then the next one was, "How quickly can you brush your teeth?" More sweets. Christian, however, was still in nappies at night. This caused them quite a problem. Neither Ollie or Matt had any experience of this. Christian, who was only 1.5 at the time, had to show them how to put it on. When we came home, the boys were sitting on the sofa looking very pleased with themselves with half an empty jar of sweets. Throughout his time at Ashford, Ollie played centre in the first 15 rugby with good success. Once, though, Tara did Ollie's sports washing, and she came across a very skimpy pair of pants which had totally no crotch.
Lucky ones.
They were. She thought these were not fit for purpose, and therefore binned them. When he next played, "Have you seen my lucky knickers?" Oh dear. I don't think she's ever been forgiven. She still feels guilty. Ollie celebrated his 21st birthday in England, and we decided to give him a party in the local pub. So we had a cake made in the shape of a rugby pitch, with green icing and goalposts either end, and a little plastic men painted to represent the two opposing teams. One was the All Blacks, and the other was the Ashford local team. Ollie, being a bit worse for wear, took one look at the cake, and as the All Blacks had just lost, swept them off the cake, saying they were rubbish. We had the cake cutting ceremony, and one of his friends, who was in the process of drinking a yard of ale, which is a mixture of drinks which in a yard-long glass, turned round and was promptly sick on the cake. We all said, "We can't eat that now." Ollie said, "Nah, they won't know in London." And he swept off the sick with a knife. Needless to say, he took it to London. And I'm sorry to say, if any of you here had any. Ollie had always dreamed of being a pilot at a very early age, and we were delighted and very proud when he fulfilled his dream. After successfully training at Motueka, he flew tourist whale spotting at Kaikoura. He seemed to have quite a few Japanese tourists wanting to go up in his six-seater. One day he sent us a film of him and his clients circling the ocean. He was turning round, not looking where he was going or at the instruments, filming the Japanese and saying, "Hello, say hello to the olds in England." These Japanese, they tentatively waved like that and smiled, but they looked absolutely petrified. Later, he went on, as you probably all know, to fly for British Midland and EasyJet in England. On one of our skiing trips in France, we were having lunch, and Ollie thought he'd try out his best French. When the waitress came with the food, he said, "Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?" The only thing he didn't realise was she was English. Her reply was, which he probably had, "Stupid boy, do you want a slap?" He looked rather sheepish. No success there then. On another occasion, Ollie thought he would try skiing downhill head first, on his back, down in that very narrow gully, screaming rather loudly. Can't think why. He went quite a long way, actually. He left a trail of clothing, hat, coat, sunglasses, and at the bottom he said, "Oh, I don't recommend that way down." Whilst in England, Ollie had great success rowing. He rowed for the Loughborough Boat Club and in the over 26s. He came third in the Masters in Scotland, with clubs from all over the world participating. Also rowing in 8s, 4s, doubles and sculls. One year he was in the winning teams that accumulated 11 cups. So I hope, Lauren, you are good at polishing. I'm sure that together with family and friends gathered here today, and those in England, you would like to join me in toasting Ollie and Lauren and wishing them a very happy and a very long future.